Listen up here lads, because today we are asking why is it that AAA titles continue to be released in a terrible state with more bugs than a flea-infested dog, and why in particular are PC gamers taking the brunt of this. It's a question that baffles many, but not all is lost, because indie games offer better value, better gameplay, more transparency, and above all else, more fun than these big blockbuster titles. Take Shadows of Doubt for example, an early access game that is rough around the edges, but at its core is a wonderful detective simulator with room to grow. Then there's Demonologist, Big Ambitions, Sons of the Forest. These indie games are like a breath of fresh air in a smoke-filled East End pub. So it's not all doom and gloom, my Pedigree Chums, but there is plenty to unpack in today's video. So grab yourself a cup of tea and let's have a chat. Before we get cracking, I wanted to give a quick shout out to Cockney Gamer's first birthday. Can you Adam and Eve it, boys and girls? We've gone from a handful of subs to almost 2,500 in just a year. This is very much your channel now, and I promise to continue down the path of honest and transparent reviews with a lot of banter thrown in on top. Thank you again, with love from Reggie and the boys. However, with the niceness out the way, I now need to be a Debbie Downer. The reason for this chat and what spurred the video into action was the release of Star Wars Jedi Survivor, another AAA codswallop title with terrible performance issues that would make Jabba the Hutt look lean on a treadmill. And that's the tip of the iceberg when looking at more examples on the PC. That wizarding tosspot Potter had performance issues, and don't get me started on Callisto Protocol, which stuttered like a middle-aged bird singing drunk karaoke. Then there was the supposed Witcher 3 upgrade, a patch that somehow made performance worse to an 8-year-old game. Then of course the big one this year, The Last of Us Part 1, where shader compiling performance issues and graphical glitches made meeting a real-life clicker seem appealing. Going slightly further back, and arguably the biggest disappointment in recent gaming history, was Cyberpunk 2077. Billed as a generational, once-in-a-lifetime game, it did not disappoint, except of course it was for all the wrong reasons and was utter tosh. Recently I did a video discussing how modders will sort out the issues on Starfield. Now a few posh blokes got their knickers in a twist, because Reggie made the assumption Starfield would release in a poor state when the game isn't even out yet. Listen, my dear Pedigree Chums, Bethesda's track record ain't exactly squeaky clean, and you only need look at the state of PC gaming right now to not be worried about its release. So Reggie will try and answer the why here, but it's not really one reason that stands out. Instead, it's a multitude of forces working together to create the cluster we now find ourselves in. The big one though is us gamers. We have to take responsibility for reinforcing subpar practices of publishers and developers alike. Star Wars Jedi Survivor, for example, is currently Steam's best-selling game, even with its early stated performance issues. The same can be said for all the games that Reggie mentioned earlier. The issue then is that us gamers, we're a fickle bunch. It's like handing money over to a hooker. We all feel dirty and depressed afterwards, but take my money anyway. However, let's be clear that this is not pointed at any of you who watch videos like this. You see, gaming is bigger revenue-wise than Hollywood and music combined, and us gamers who gorge on YouTube content and discuss in Reddit posts care about these things the most. But for many people, gaming is seen as a far more passive hobby. Imagine a guy named Chad who is down the boozer with his mates, smashing back pints of Stella, talking about the fit brunette he pulled at Weatherspoons. But when Chad sees an ad for Star Wars Jedi Survivor on the TV, hanging high above the bar, Chad tells his mates, "That looks proper good, that. I think I might grab it on the way home." And there it is, another sale that is notched onto the bedpost. And I want to be clear here, there is absolutely nothing wrong with Chad's behaviour. In fact, I encourage more Chads, because gaming is a bigger and better place with him in it. But we're now in a situation where critique matters little to these publishers, and quality can be overlooked because the masses will buy it regardless. Some of the top sellers on Steam right now aren't even released yet. The money is already in the publisher's bank. When gaming was more niche, developers and publishers alike couldn't afford to take such liberties, as magazine reviews would kill your launch before it even hit shelves. Another significant issue is the considerable drop in gaming standards. Here too, I'm afraid we're going to have to point the finger at ourselves. As time has passed, attitudes have changed. Back in the day, we all took the piss out of the horse armour that was released for Oblivion, a cosmetic piece of clothing that launched back in 2006 at a rather cheap $2.50. At the time, many gamers were in uproar because they felt it should have been in the base game. But did we still buy it? Of course we bloody did. And publishers saw an opportunity here, and fast forward almost 20 years and cosmetics are built into battle passes that may cost, I don't know, $20 or so per month, and yet we don't bat an eyelid. Think about it, mate. If you were a publisher, why would you invest valuable resources in polishing a game when you can use that resource to slap on some cosmetics and make a fortune? Of course, not all games come out in an unpolished state. Resident Evil 4, for example, the remake, I played it and absolutely loved it, and it played very nicely on the PC. But even in a single-player game traditionally seen as an isolated horror experience, the microtransactions came thick and fast. That's what she said after its initial release. Let's not forget how console gamers used to rip into PC gamers for how unfinished games were, that they required day one patches. Not us console gamers, God no, you just put in the disc and it works. But now, we're all buzzing when a patch comes out to fix the shit show of a game we've already shelled out our hard-earned money on. People in my close circles have said, Star Wars plays like dog shit, but the patches will fix it up, Reggie. Like it's validating their own decision to buy this tosh pot of a game that should have been released 6 months further down the road. When did we as gamers let our standards drop so much? So why is it then that the recent spat of poor releases are happening on PC in particular? Well, it's all down to greed, innit? PC gaming has definitely boomed over the last decade or so, with many console gamers transitioning over to PC, and those of us with proper jobs and dosh can afford both a console and a fancy PC. But the thing is, these big publishers like Sony state that they intend to release more PC ports because of the moolah it brings in, and that's when you see how these issues can form. You see, console will always be the bread and butter in the development cycle, so PC releases will be the afterthought. So they throw a small team on the PC release and just hope it's good enough to make some extra cash. The presumed discussion behind closed doors is the PC gamers, we can release a few patches to fix up what we can't do now, but just get it out the door on the hype train and get those sales in, and thus we have that clusterfuck that is current PC gaming, but only when we discuss AAA titles. On the flip side, indie games are in the best place they've ever been. It's like going to a proper pie and mash shop and getting a tasty meal rather than noshing on some greasy fast food slop from Ronald McDonald. As programming tools are developed and game engines become more powerful, we are seeing genuinely brilliant game ideas with fantastic mechanics at play and gameplay options that leave many AAA titles in their dust. Indie gaming right now reminds me of the gaming industry of yesteryear, where competition is stiffer than a teenage boy in a woman's yoga class, where ideas are fresh and new, where risks are actually taken, and where there is a genuine respect for us as gamers. Early access titles have their issues for sure, but at least you know what you're getting into, most of the time that is. When I play games like Shadows of Doubt, I get that warm fuzzy feeling back inside me, like when you pass a kidney stone, where even with its rough edges and bugs on display, I accept what I'm getting into for my $20. Yes, it lacks the cutting-edge tech of modern blockbuster games, but my $20 is hard at work here, supporting those developers and making it into something new and interesting. When you consider games like Redfall or Jedi Survivor and that they cost a whopping $70, and you look at the state that they release in, you can't help but feel indie gaming is the real future of the hobby that we all love so much. As technology continues to evolve in the coming years and game engines become even more accessible, these so-called AAA titles will start to lose their advantage. So whilst the state of current PC gaming is one big shit show, Reggie does see the good it has too, and thankfully that is fueled by the proper fans of the hobby that we all love so dear. And with that, my Pedigree Chums, love to you all. Reggie out.